Hi there, everybody. My name is Kate, and welcome to my channel, Trinergy Awakens Naturally. Ah, there she goes. I was just going to say, and just as I started, this is take two, because Ms. Anya Kitty, a.k.a. the Stabber and the Jabber, she decided to get up here and get busy. But that's okay. She does her thing. As long as she doesn't draw blood, we're cool. The reason that I'm on here today is because this is a channeled message, and it's kind of specialized to men and male presenting men, not just masculine energy, but men, male presenting men. So it's not to mean that divine feminine presenting in whatever form she presents in isn't important, or that female presenting people or a trans community, it's not to downplay anyone else. It's just that this message has been coming strong for, I don't know, at least 24 hours, so I got to get it out of me and pass it on. There are men out there, I hear men who have been very damaged and hurt by women. And again, this isn't taking sides here, so women, if you're not interested in hearing what might be a message for a man, what is a message for a man, and not be able to handle the fact that for this message it seems like I'm taking sides, then please, it's okay. Not every message is for everybody. However, this is for a man or male collective or men, whomever it comes across it, that it hits and sticks. Please take this, that there is a great deal of pain in the male body, particularly in the male collective. There is a lot of pain with men that have been very hurt and damaged by a male-female relationship, the typical heterosexual relationship. And it was born of a very domineering mother. That's just specific this message. I'm not saying all relationships and all men are damaged in some way, and it's because of this. What I am saying is the channeling that I'm getting, the message that I have gotten, is that there are men, and the male collective that can hear this have had contentious relationships with women because it primarily started with an overbearing mother that was very cold and withholding and had high expectations. And I totally get that, because boy, yeah, I just totally get that. Let's leave it at that. However, I'm not a man, so it presents differently for a woman when we're raised in those kinds of households. But the men that I'm speaking to, or the male collective that I'm speaking to and representing, honestly, because I feel a great deal of pangs in my heart for you. I always have. I remember when I was a child, my grandfather died when I was 8 years old, and I remember only seeing him, a few times, a handful of times before he passed away, because my grandparents didn't live together. Yeah, we had one of those families. Grandma and Grandpa are married, but they don't live in the same house. Okay. Yeah, welcome to a weird family. But I always felt really bad for my grandpa, and I always kind of stuck up for him in my mind, because even though it was a little bit difficult to spend time with him because he was an alcoholic and he smelled kind of funky, his hygiene wasn't the greatest, but I knew he had a very tender heart, and he actually was the only person in my family that looked at me and would see me. And I remember his eyes, that his eyes were the only ones that didn't freak me out most of the time, when I saw him. And I was always glad to see him. And I felt bad for him because I knew what people said when he wasn't there. And he was not there a whole lot more than he was there. And I knew why, because he was really spoken about very unkindly, and yet I thought, he's a very warm and tender man to me. I get to sit on his lap, and yeah, it smells a little funky, and I sure wish he cleaned up a little better and all that. However, he sees me, his eyes, he sees me, he looks me dead in my eyes, and I know that he actually sees me. He's not looking over me, he's not trying to get rid of me, he isn't saying anything ugly to me. And so it was really confusing as a child to understand, why do all these people talk such shit about you? I don't know. Why do they not like you? And there are lots of complicating reasons, because as a father, that's not a very serviceable, disposition to be an alcoholic and largely unavailable. And yet my experience with him was very different, that we're emotionally connected here. And he's not my dad, and he's not my granddad too often, but when he is, we're engaged, we're making eye contact. And we didn't ever go get ice cream and, go watch the ball game or do anything like that. that. There wasn't any kind of, activity. However, I could feel the heart connection with this man, and he left my life and left the earth when I was 8 years old, and I'm 55 now. And so I really got very twisted up with what male relationships were, because he was the only male relationship that I felt safe with, honestly. And he passed away, and when he passed away, it was quite devastating. And so male relationships got complicated after that, and yet I always felt a deep connection to men that had, cold, sterile, very overbearing mothers. I felt a deep connection to them, and I wanted to just save them, honestly. That, ooh, yeah, that's a mommy that's not nice. She's just ruining you. She's emasculating you. And yet, in some respects, I picked up that kind of behavior as well. And so I understand, being the woman, that, I need this man to not be the emasculated, broken individual that he is, that's left over from, a cold and sterile mother that apparently didn't rock him a whole lot, or didn't touch him a whole lot in a nice way, or didn't say things to him in a very nice way, because she had issues of some kind. One of those, I felt a very deep tenderness for it, and yet as a woman on the receiving end of it, it was frustrating, and I could see how I was perpetuating the cycle, and yet being on the inside of that and the outside of it was so frustrating, because I understand that, oh, this is a man who needs soft, safe touch from a woman that doesn't expect too much, that's not expecting this overbearing, monster mom type. It's very hard to be married to that, or be in a romantic relationship with that. It is. It's because of, in that particular instance, unresolved stuff from childhood, and yet it can't really be fixed in adulthood with a woman who really can't understand that, and the man isn't willing to break out of it. So whomever this is for, there's some man or some male collective or some male somebody that can hear this and understand this, I'm certain. Or I just need to be hearing myself say it. But the message I'm getting is that no relationship that you've ever had with any woman has to define the relationship that you're creating for yourself for the future. Obviously, if you're in a relationship with someone, I'd say this message may not be for you, or when you're exiting, whatever it is, but whatever the dissatisfaction is that's looming around, then it's okay. You can notice the dissatisfaction. You can notice the, I'm not really digging this, and be looking at, what are my expectations, not based on what mom was or wasn't, not based on who, we've had in our lives in the past, or anything that they've ever done. It's okay if we reach out and trust someone. It's okay if we reach out and understand that women can be quite nurturing, and they can be quite loving and quite kind, and they can also do that without being your mother. We don't have to take it either or. It's true for women too. We don't have to have people, men be our dads, or anything in between. That's the bastardization of those relationships. However, again, I'm speaking particularly about a heterosexual man with a heterosexual woman. So I'm presenting as such on both sides of that it is really okay to believe that there is a whole entire woman that can meet her needs on her own as a female and a male presenting female, however, with divine masculine and divine feminine energy balanced, the same as you can meet your needs as a male presenting divine masculine, divine feminine balanced. Because when we're in those relationships with ourselves and we're quite balanced, and yet I present as a woman, when I come across a man who's balanced and he's, a man, then that relationship, we would be able to meet one another, trust one another, and not bring any baggage from where we were before for either side of this. But whoever the man is, or the collective of men are that are wondering, it is possible. The relationship that you might be looking for is based on what you don't want from back there, which is understandable. However, looking at, what do I want in a relationship? I want a woman that's strong and capable and able to take care of herself. I don't want a babysitter, and I don't want to be her dad. Totally understand that. And yet I also don't want her to be my mom. We don't want to be parentified or be parentifying, perhaps. I know for myself, I'm definitely not interested in that, and I can understand why someone on the other side of a relationship would not want that either. So what can help serve us better is to know that Divine Feminine has a balanced Divine Feminine. A truly Divine Feminine can be Divine Mother and not be your mother. She can be the one that is nurturing, that is kind, that can help grow and build those things that she looks to you for protection. She looks to you for friendship. She looks to you for romance. She looks to you for all of those things that sound like a Hallmark movie. And we also have that ability to know and understand that there's some days that that's not going to look like a Hallmark movie. It's going to look a whole lot different than that. And yet, the difference is that when we have to roll up our sleeves and get to work, we know how to do that and still be kind, still have, reasonable expectations of the relationship that have very respectful boundaries, because Divine Feminine understands and respects Divine Masculine, and Divine Masculine returns the favor. But whomever it is that's out there with a broken heart about a woman that was a shrew, a woman that was a Jezebel, a woman that was a Black Widow, a woman that was emasculating and just denigrating and disrespectful, please know that there are Divine Feminines out there. We're all healing on this planet. It's a matter of finding someone who's more matched with where we are in our healing process. We can't be totally broken, both of us. We end up with broken relationships and more broken hearts. And so we find people who are more compatible. 1111, thank you, who are on the track pretty much where we are, and can help us grow and heal in those places where it is divinely guided to do so, where something that you provide perhaps to me or I provide to you is something you could do for yourself. However, because it's divinely matched and we understand the process of being Divine Masculine and Divine Feminine and being balanced in ourselves within that structure already, when we look to our partner, we know, hey, I can rely on this person. They have my back. And when I'm feeling vulnerable, I really need some cover right here. I need you to be the dude and really show up as the dude. And I really prefer you just kind of show up like that most of the time. Or, hey, I'm the dude and I really like, a feminine woman that enjoys, being mothering and kind without being my mother, and I don't need to be your dad. Cool, we're on the same track. That's the kind of negotiation and the kind of talk that I'm speaking of. It might seem kind of awkward. It might seem 12-12 kind of weird. And yet, those are the grown-up conversations that whomever this is for, you're wondering if, is there really a woman that can have that conversation with me? Yes, there really is. There really are Divine Feminines that are grown all the way up that don't want a dad and don't want to be a mom. And because we've made those mistakes in the past and we understand that, we're ready to move on just like you are. And so this is a time when there are a lot of people that are not uniting, they're ununiting, whatever, what do you call that? They're divorcing, they're breaking up, they're splitting up, whatever you call that. And then others are coming together, they are uniting. And so in a period where people are shuffling and there are a lot of things, a lot of balls up in the air, we just need to be very particular in making sure that as we move forward, we're not making our assessments on anybody from the past in comparative study. If we really want something different, then we take the whole comparative study out and say, yeah, I don't want that, I don't want that, I don't want that. Cool. Well, what do you want? What I would like to have, 1313, is this, and this. And if it's based on, a prior relationship of I found out the hard way on that, that's fine. However, let's eliminate the whole, dialogue of who, what, when, and where of that, and just know that I learned my lesson of what didn't work for me, and this is how I'm going forward. This is the vision that I see. I want a relationship that is blah, 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 blah. And then know and believe and trust that there are grown-up people on both sides of this. Again, though, this is primarily for the masculine that's asking, wanting to know, or needing the reassurance that there are women out there that can handle that can handle a man being a man and standing up in that man role. Because, in Lion King, the Lion King is presiding over the entire kingdom, and he couldn't run that without his lioness. So both are equally as important. One is above the other depending on what you're looking at, what parameter of measurement you're looking at. However, they equally run the joint, and they're both vitally important. It could seem that one is more important than the other, and yet if you took one of them away, the whole entire pride would go away. And so this new age, coming into that new earth understanding and new age understanding of the age of Aquarius, means that we understand our roles and our dynamics very differently as divine masculine and divine feminine energies, and how we move about the building and move about freely as we're doing those things. It looks very little like anything that any of us have ever done before. And most of us that have been in relationships where we learned and walked away, or were asked to step away, or we were left, whatever, dynamic it was, we usually had a whole lot of hurt about that. The key is just to show up without assuming that this one's going to be just like the last one. We have to put our foot out there with courage and with knowledge. And the way that I personally grow courage is to get a lot more knowledge on it, to look at where my mistakes were in the past and make no assumptions going forward 15-15 in the future about who I'm dealing with, other than if I see, someone coming at me romantically and they're talking stuff, that doesn't work for me. I don't go out assuming that everybody's for me. As a matter of fact, it's a very high exclusion rate from most people, because they're just not on the same track. They don't have the same agenda and they don't have the same priorities. And so making no assumption about anyone, making no assumption that any relationship is headed anywhere in particular, takes away a lot of the stress on me and for other people. It allows people to make their choice, and it allows me to make my choice. And sometimes people don't always understand that, yeah, I'm not interested in that. Or even friendships, however, I just know that we're on separate tracks here. We're on different timelines and we have different priorities. And I don't have to hate a dude who is overly aggressive and overly sexual with me, very overbearing in that department about, hey, baby, I used to get very angry about it and say, oh my God, they're all dogs. And it really doesn't help anything for me to be pounding an old idea. That's the old agenda and the old age of Pisces there, Kate. Let's not keep assuming, because if I keep assuming that all men are the same as, all these dogs, yeah, they are all the same if they're the same, and that's not everybody that's on the planet. And I don't want anybody making any assumption about me based on the worst behavior I've ever exhibited, especially when I've worked very hard to not be doing that anymore. So if I'm not going to want anybody to look at me based on the worst behavior I've ever exhibited, then I really can't walk out making any assumption about anybody else. And broad generalizations just don't work. That's how we end up with racism and men feeling like they're never going to find, another woman that isn't just like the one they left, or that left them, that isn't just like their mother, that, blah, 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 or women making the same assumptions. So whomever might have questioned, whoever is, possibly wandering around wondering, it is possible. There are women out there, and there are men out there too. No matter who might be listening, we have people that are for us, and we have people that are not really going to work very well with us. So that's the key, is just keeping an open mind. Having zero expectation allows people to show up more brilliantly, and then they can show up being more authentically who they are, and then we can really decide, and we can help ourselves get there. We can help our relationship solidify even faster and more pleasantly. We'll know more directly if we have no expectation, because we both want to be there. Then we both know we want to be there, and it's very strong right off the top. It makes it simpler, but we do have to wait sometimes, quite some time, for that, and that can be a little bit difficult. It can be a little bit lonely, and it can be a little bit disconcerting sometimes. However, forge forward, my friends, and know that your love is out there. The love of your life is waiting for you somewhere, and definitely the love of your life is waiting right inside to remind you. So please feel free to remind yourself that you are divine masculine, and you are absolutely gorgeous, beautiful, and wonderful, and delightful, and that whomever it is that's going to be so lucky to have you at their side, they already adore you because they can feel your presence. So please take that for whatever it's worth. I hope you enjoy your day, no matter what part of the day you're in. And remember, get within your skin, because you're divine. Oh, divine masculine. Oh my goodness, you are so handsome, so dapper, and so wonderful, and so divine. Take care of your beautiful selves, and I will see you again next time. Mwah. Goodbye, my beautiful friends.